rikaz meaning mining, or anything below ground. Below ground. That khums is applicable to that, and the Sunnis and the Shias agree on this. So the difference is only 2 or 3 different things that the Shias present. So this is something which is common among Sunnis and Shias. Rikaz meaning everything which is below ground. Now, I said that 2.5%, this concept of 2.5%, where did it come about? And before I go on to this point, I want to make this clear, because I have been told to make this clear. The subject of 2.5% is purely on currency, which is gold and silver. Currency which is a legal tender, which is used amongst people as legal tender, gold and silver, 2.5% is applicable to that. 2.5%. Now regarding agriculture, I said apart from gold and silver, which is 2.5%, and that is not applicable in modern society. Now, this is a subject which has been covered by some ulama who say that actually, I know one alim who is of this opinion, that even your currency has to be khums applicable to that, because there are gold reserves which are equivalent to the amount of currency in circulation.
That's right.
There must be gold reserves equivalent to the cash which is in circulation. And from this principle he has said, I'm not saying that this is the jumhur, meaning the consensus of the ijma of the ulama. This is one alim who is of this opinion. So, I have to mention 2.5% because it is possible that it might be applicable in the future. There might be such time in the future when society is so bankrupt, like the West is at the moment, that the pound has no value, which we're gradually seeing it being eroded away in value. Maybe the pound will have no value, the dollar. And Dr. was telling me that they are thinking of actually bringing in a new currency to replace dollar. And in these countries, Canada, Mexico and America are going to be introducing this currency. So, currencies changes. So, there might be some time that gold and silver currency might come back into fashion again. Now, there's one point when I was reading upon this subject, and I was just going through the internet, looking up what Sunnis have their nisab. What does nisab mean? Nisab means what criteria is required on how many camels should there be for zakat to be applicable. How many cows or buffaloes should there be to be applicable of khums, on zakat upon this. And the same with sheep and goats. So their nisab was slightly different to ours. Their criteria was slightly different to ours. But that is amongst the faqirs, the mujtahids. There can be. And the same with wheat and barley, and raisins and dates. So everybody has different nisab according to their understanding. Now, I said mining, anything which is below ground. How do Sunnis take taxes from that which is below the ground? Like, for example, ore, precious ore. That is extracted from the ground. How do they apply zakat upon that? They don't. And when I read this, I was actually amazed. I was reading, if you go onto the internet, you'll find this, that on ore, they do not have zakat, even today. But they have renamed it. They put 20% zakat upon ore. It should be khums according to us, but they have changed that to zakat. And there's no concept of 20% zakat anywhere. It was purely that it was khums regarding minerals or anything which is below ground. Instead of putting zakat on that, which they should have done, they have changed it to 20% and renamed it not khums but zakat. And this was the way of getting over this problem of why zakat is not applicable to anything which comes below ground, but they made that. They invented that. Because their hadiths were there regarding riqaz, meaning anything which is below ground. Rasulullah said 20% khums. So they had this hadith, they don't know what to do with it. So what they did, instead of calling it khums, because the state had banned khums, they turned it into zakat. Now also...
So would that apply to oil also?
Oil, yes. There's rulings on oil as well. I'm not sure about the Shia ulama on this, but the Sunnis, they apply zakat on, but they don't give anything really. I mean, this is just namesake. 2.5%. This figure which came about. I said that there's no mention of 2.5% in the Quran. There's no mention of how much in nisab, I mean, what criteria that these 9 things should reach for zakat to be applicable. There's no mention. But they said it came through heritage from Hazrat Ibrahim, because Hazrat Ibrahim was ordered to pay zakat as well. Now, 20%. I said yesterday, 20%, you have the amount that you need to give. And you also have a definition in the Quran of on what is khums applicable to. At least we have one thing. And then we have a hadith which clarifies another 2 or 3 things. So we have more information in one ayat of the Quran regarding khums than there is on the subject of zakat, where there is 10 times, 30 times as many mentioned in the Quran of zakat. Zakat has been mentioned, but no clarification. Khums was mentioned once, and you have clarification. How much? 20%, and you also have on what. So when I said once is sufficient, once here is so sufficient that you can actually adopt a ruling from here. Whereas with the zakat, you have to go to hadiths, you have to go in the sayings of the imams to find out on how much nisab should be, what should be the criteria. Now, 20%, this figure of 20%, where did it came about? The Quran has mentioned 20%, we know that. But I tell you of one event which I have read, that when the well of Zamzam was dug up by Hazrat Abdul Muttalib, he found a treasure trove which was hid in the past by his forefathers, and when he dug the well of Zamzam again, he found some treasures. And what did he do with this treasure? He divided it up into 5 parts. And one part he distributed amongst his family, the Hashim family. Hazrat Abdul Muttalib did this. And ulama have said that Allah, through the grace and the love of the Ahlul Bayt, kept this tradition going. 2.5% came through heritage, no mention in the Quran. 20% was given by Hazrat Abdul Muttalib. Allah has mentioned that 20% in the Quran. So we have sources which says that Hazrat Abdul Muttalib was the actual originator of khums. Now, zakat, and this is going to be my last few sentences on zakat, and then I'm going to move on. Because I think, because zakat is never talked about. Never. And I know this as well, because I have been listening to majlises all my life, and I have never, apart from reading it yourself, you will not hear it from the minbar. Because it's not applicable to us. I said this at the very outset, but it is still interesting to know. Still interesting to know how zakat is calculated. And ulama has said that on agricultural products, that it has to reach a figure of 847 kilograms before zakat is applied to your harvest. To your harvest. Now, how much above 847, when you reach that figure, how much should be given? Then it comes to whether the land is cultivated and irrigated by natural means, or is it irrigated by unnatural means, meaning you actually do the efforts yourself in order to irrigate that land. There's 2 criteria. If it's irrigated, naturally through rain, then it's 10%. And if it's done through your efforts, then it's 5%. On anything above 847, and this 847 then becomes a part of that nisab. And regarding, that's the 4 items. That's barley, wheat, raisins and dates. These 4 items. And then regarding the cow, the camel, and the goats and the sheep, they reach a figure with a camel, it's 5, and then you give 1 sheep. And when you reach up to 25 or 26, then you give 1 camel, and the camel has to be a certain age as well. These subjects are, ulama can't remember this because you have to go back to the source and then either remember it off by heart or have a chart in front of you. So these are the aspects of zakat and what nisab is. So a fair assessment of this ayah of وَعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ, this is forever. And I have said this, that this ayah of the Quran is forever. It is not a temporary injunction by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has ordered khums forever. Forever. And collecting zakat and khums during the time of Rasulullah, it was done by the state. And I have from Muslim a narration, book number 005, number 5, and hadith says 2348. You can look this up on the internet. And it says here, after a long preamble, the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, also said to me, Call Mahmiya bin Jaz, and he was a person from Banu Asad. This is the name of a tribe. And the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, had appointed him as a collector of khums. Actually, when I read this, I thought that made a mistake. No, you have collector of zakat, amalina zakat, collectors of zakat. But here it's got collector of khums. And I couldn't get my mind around this. Because if you are in a warfare situation, a battle situation, and usually all battles during the time of Rasulullah were ordered by Rasulullah, and he may well not have attended those battles, but Rasulullah knew, he had ordered these battles. So Rasulullah has, instead of asking zakat to be collected, he's asking khums to be collected. Now, khums is something which happens in a warfare. You collect khums in warfare situations, according to the ayah of the Quran. But this hadith shows a slight contradiction there. That khums is not only that which is collected from warfare, it is also has a broader boundary as well. Like the tribe of Rabi'a were told to give khums as well, and yet they were not ordered to do any battle. So this actually gives more weight and more evidence that khums is applicable not just upon war booty. Now, the people of Rasulullah, in the time of Rasulullah, they understood this. The tribes surrounding Medina, the tribes in Jaziratul Arab who had converted to Islam, they understood this. That zakat and khums has to be paid on the nisabs and on the criteria set out. Now, this conversation, this lecture is now going to move on to another phase. It's going to move on to the political phase. I just basically tied up some loose ends from yesterday and now inshallah go forward to what I want to discuss today. Now, Zil Qurba has come in this ayah of the Quran. Zil Qurba. And Abdullah ibn Abbas was asked, who are this Zil Qurba? And Abdullah ibn Abbas says, it was us. We thought it was us. But the government, the state, took this khums away from us. So, Zil Qurba and Rasulullah have a close connection. There is something unique in Zil Qurba and Rasulullah. What is that? Which is commonly known amongst the people. That Rasulullah's family, they did not partake in zakat and sadaqah. So there is this natural uniqueness between Rasulullah and his Zil Qurba. Just on the topic of sadaqah and zakat, that Rasulullah does not take sadaqah and zakat, and his children and the Sayyids do not take zakat and sadaqah. So there is a uniqueness and closeness which exists just by this concept of Zil Qurba. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered everybody, not just the Shias, the whole Muslim world to love Fil Qurba. So the relationship of uniqueness exists in Zil Qurba, in this ayat, and Allah demands the whole of mankind. قل بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى في القربى. And in this ayat is Zil Qurba. This relationship between Zil Qurba, Fil Qurba, it is showing to mankind, not just Muslims, the mankind, that with me comes this package as well of Zil Qurba. Zil Qurba comes with Rasulullah. If you accept Rasulullah, you also accept the Zil Qurba. If you detach yourself from the Zil Qurba, you also detach yourself from Rasulullah. And we have hadith which say that Allah, in this the last Hajj of Rasulullah, and even on other occasions, Rasulullah said, I am leaving you two weighty things, two mighty things: the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt. So this relationship has been forgotten by the Muslim Ummah. This relationship has been severed away from Zil Qurba, Fil Qurba, and from Rasulullah. And inshallah, I will show you why this was done. There was a reason behind this. So the recompense, the payment of Islam is the mawaddat fil qurba. The love for the fil qurba is a payment, is the payment of Islam. For the efforts of Rasulullah, the efforts of Islam, we have to repay this. And if we do not repay this, everything we do, our namaz, roza, everything which exists, because this fil qurba, mawaddat fil qurba, is actually the seal on all your ibadah. This is no exaggeration. People might say this is Shia exaggeration. No, this is actually the requirement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the demand in the Quran as well, is that if you do not love and show affection, and not just affection of the tongue, which I see often, not just affection of just words, but affection and love which shows that you are the followers of Ahlul Bayt, you are the followers of Zil Qurba, you love the Fil Qurba. And if you do not show this, you have not given payment for the religion of Islam. This is such a weighty thing to say, that the whole of Islam is dependent upon loving these Zil Qurba and Fil Qurba. And then in Khums Ghadir is the actual ceremony, the coronation of Mawla Ali. It is the coronation of Mawla Ali to make absolutely clear who will be the fountainhead of this Zil Qurba, who will be the master of Fil Qurba. This is the coronation of Mawla Ali. And also, people of Arabia who went with Rasulullah at the last pilgrimage, they understood exactly what was meant here. They knew exactly what Rasulullah was saying. Because people today say, how is it that so close companions of Rasulullah, if this declaration this coronation of Mullah Ali was meant to be the way the Shias proclaimed, then why is it that so many people fell away? Didn't remember this. That is not our problem. If they did, we don't believe them. That is their problem, not our problem. So everybody understood that Mullah Ali was coronated. He was crowned, the Taj, on his head of Khilafat and Wilayat. And this was known to all the tribes of Arabia. So, with the control of Zakat and Khums, was the state controlling this, they also knew, the people of Arabia, that Zakat and Khums is going to be given to Zil Qurba, because we have a Quranic injunction saying that Zil Qurba will have control of Khums. Because Allah does not collect Khums Himself. Who collects it? Rasulullah. And after Rasulullah, you have the coronation. So you have a deputization of the concept of Khums as well. This is now the turning point. After the death of Rasulullah, events take a turn for the worse. What happens is, during the return from Hajj, Rasulullah orders people to leave Medina and go with Usama towards Jordan, where Usama's father was killed, Mota. Now, people were aware that Rasulullah is going to pass away. They knew this, because Rasulullah had said this at the last pilgrimage. He said, "This will be my last Hajj." And they were aware that Rasulullah is unwell and he is going to pass away. So what they did, they delayed. They delayed the leaving of the army from Medina, waiting for news to see how things transpire, how things turn out. Rasulullah passes away. The people who have been ordered to leave Medina, they're still in Medina. So the first thing that some companions do is they go to, I'm not going to read the whole events of this. I'm trying to make a correlation, a relationship between what I'm about to say and these events. And Khums as well. So they would go away to Saqifa, and the two companions, they say to the Ansar, "Look, Ansar, you have helped Rasulullah, and you have sacrificed yourselves, you have sacrificed your wealth for Islam, you have housed us, you have given us so much, but you are not capable of leadership." Why? Is because of only one thing was mentioned in this. Is because of our close relationship to Rasulullah. This was the grounds of gaining Khilafat. This was the only grounds which was used to gain Khilafat. Was there one tribe, being Quraysh, being from Makkah? We are closer to Rasulullah than you are. So we have a right of becoming Khalifas. And the second gave bay'at to the first. And this is how this process of so-called democracy. This is how democracy came about, so-called democracy. And then the second event in this line of things is that Sayyidah Fatimah Zahra asked for Fadak. Because what happened? Fadak had been given to Fatimah Zahra after the Battle of Khaybar. And Sayyidah Fatimah had this in her control for about 3 years. After Battle of Khaybar, this was in her control for 3 years. Now, when Rasulullah died, what the first thing to do with Khilafat, with Saqifa, they also took Fadak away as well. And some other lands in Medina, and some other lands, some forts of Khaybar as well, which belonged to Rasulullah. So what they did, they annexed and confiscated these properties. There was a political reason behind this. What was that political reason? So Sayyidah asked for not just Fadak, she asked for Khums as well. Sayyidah asked for Khums as well. Regarding Fadak, the first said, I have heard Rasulullah say that Nahnul Ma'shir al-Anbiya La Nariso Wala Nuriso Ma Tarakna Sadaqa. Meaning that we, the prophets, do not inherit and we do not leave heirs. We do not leave anything beyond. Whatever is left is Sadaqah. This narration came from the first. He narrated this and nobody verified the veracity and the truthfulness of this, so-called hadith, of this fabrication. And we talk about this and all of you know this. But he also has said the same thing regarding Khums. Were you aware of this? That the first said that Rasulullah told me, nobody else, not the family, no other companion, not Mawla Ali, just him and him only. Only he knew. And if you go onto the internet Forum of Islam, a question has been asked by a brother here in this audience regarding what other hadiths does the first know about Islam regarding Tawheed. If he has got this secret knowledge, if he's got this knowledge which nobody else has, then what else can you show from the first which is secret knowledge? And this post on the internet has been there for nearly 30 days now. 30, 40 days. And the Sunnis have been challenged. If you just go on to Forum of Islam, Shia Sunni dialogue, and you'll find the subject of Tawheed. A question has been asked by brother here. And it's been on the forum for over 30 days. Has been challenged over and again. Please give us something which Hazrat, first, second and third, have given us regarding Tawheed. If they had secret knowledge, Rasulullah would have passed on the knowledge which he had, which he gave to Mawla Ali, to the first as well. They have not come back with one narration. They have not come back with one saying from the first, second or third regarding anything about Tawheed. So, controlling Fadak and controlling Khums, it is actually a way of showing legitimacy of rule. If you have control of Rasulullah's property, the Arabs of Arabia are going to think, because they don't know, only people of Medina, they are the ones who have created this mischief. Only they are the ones who know. But the people outside of Medina, in the tribes, in the villages, they don't know what's happening in Medina. They are only going to act upon whatever comes out of the center of Medina, from the center of the government. They are going to implement whatever comes. And in their minds of Arabia, the Arabs knew that Mawla Ali is the Khalifa. There's nothing to argue about, because they heard this Rasulullah say in Khums. But if you can show that Khums is in your control, if you can show that Fay, I'm not going to explain what Fay is, that is the property which was given to Allah, given by Allah to Rasulullah, Fay, which is Bani Nazir, the land of Bani Nazir in Medina, which is Khaybar, Fadak, this is Fay. The two castles in Khaybar, this is Fay, meaning that was given to Allah, given by Allah to Rasulullah without any battle, without any warfare. So, this control of Fadak and Khums is actually a way of showing that we are who? The